How you doing, everyone? Hope you are all safe and well. This is a very unannounced live stream, just to just have a check-in with you. There's a few things I'd like to talk to you about tonight, so I hope you are all okay. I've got a nice hot cup of coffee here. Don't like the way that's set. That's better, isn't it? I've got a nice hot cup of coffee here. I'm just going to give it a minute or two, or a little while, for some people to log on, because this is unannounced. So there wasn't anybody sitting there expecting this. Stephen's the first one. Hi, Steve. Hope you're all right, mate. Nick, how you doing, pal? Just going to have a swig of coffee. I've got a few things to go through tonight. I'll just let a few more people log on. Just have a quick check-in, see who's here, which is great. Can you let me know if you can hear me all right? I'm not sure if you can. If you just let me know that the volume's okay and everything before we get going. I don't want to get going and then find that we've got to abandon or abort the mission. Okay. Sound good. Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Richard. Can everyone else hear me all right? It looks all right to me. It's not too pixelated or anything on here. Sound seems all right. Volume just fine. Brilliant. Thank you, everybody. Wow, we've all jumped on it tonight, haven't you? Oh, that cup of coffee is beautiful. So we've got quite a few on already, which is brilliant. I didn't expect that, especially as this is completely unannounced. How are you all? Are you all okay? I will go through the chat the best I can, just to let a few people know. I know there are some of our channel members on here, like Richard's on there, Dimitar. Good evening, Dimitar. Stephen's on there. A lot of those people watch on these streams that happen almost every week or once every 10 days on the membership channel. We do them a lot on there. However, because that is a smaller community, I can actually go through the chat and respond to everybody's messages. This is actually on YouTube, so already we've got more people on now than we would normally have on a members stream. So if I can't, check everybody's chat in the chat live, I do apologise. Obviously, I can't man that as well as do what I'm doing tonight. So, but I will keep scanning through it, because it means a hell of a lot to me that you're logging on live, you're watching live. Otherwise, if people didn't log on live, I might as well just film this as a video and just upload it and sit back and go and do something else. Whereas this is a lot more personal. It's a lot more interactive. And it's just my way of just kind of saying thank you for all the support to everybody for following the channel. And it's a great way of me giving you some news about what's actually happening with the channel through next month, through June. We're not far off June now. So I've got a few things I just want to let you know about, because there are lots of people out there that don't get to hear about things until it's too late, or they've missed it or whatever. All right. So what I am going to do, I'm just going to flick over here because I don't want to interrupt the stream too much. Okay. Let's just try this. Let me just try this. I've never done this before, so I'm just trying it now. I'm just going to give it another few seconds so that a few people can just get logged on, because I hate people missing out on the live stream stuff when they've taken the trouble, when they've taken the time and trouble to log on and say hello. So there we go. All right. So that looks all right. I'm just running checks just to make sure everything's all right. There we go. Right. I'm just copying and pasting something underneath this video, because I'm sure there will be some people who are interested, and I'd hate them to miss the opportunity. All right, there we go. Okay, right. So basically, are we still connected? All right, like, great. So many people on. That's fantastic. Right, I've got a few things that I want to go through tonight with you. All right, a bit of news, a bit of things, one or two things, and there's some things that I want to ask you as well. And obviously, if I can get real-time feedback from some of the stuff, then obviously that really helps me, and I think it helps you as well to put your ideas forward and things. All right. So just on a quick scan, see who's here. Steven's here. Nick, Dimitar, Andre, Richard, Shane, Nick. Good. Thank you, everybody, for letting me know everything's all right. Jason's here. Andrew, Nathan, Steve, Dave. Dave Berry's on. Hi, Dave. Hope you're all right, mate. James Atkins. Good. That's great. Thank you, Daniel. Adam Biggerdike. Hope you're all right, mate. Right. So we've just got a quick question there from Adam. I have got some things I want to go through here, so I'm just going to quickly answer that question by Adam. Hi, Jamie. What Waggler rod would you recommend for all-round use, pellet Waggler and river fishing? I don't know of one. I'll be absolutely honest with you, Adam. I know that's a rubbish answer for you. And that's basically, there's a couple of reasons for that. One is that when you're fishing a pellet waggler, you're generally fishing shallow. Okay, so you don't need a long rod unless you're casting a long way. So the vast majority of pellet waggler rods are about 11 foot. Okay, so that's one thing. So you don't need a long rod for when you're pellet waggler fishing usually, because if you think that if you was to use a 13-foot rod that could cast 45 meters, that's brilliant, but there aren't many pellets that you can catapult 45 meters. So you're kind of defeating the object, you know. So you tend to be fishing ranges up to 30 meters where you can fire 8mm pellets. Are you with me? So that's why we use 11-foot rods for pellet waggler fishing. And generally, by its very nature, pellet waggler fishing generally means you're fishing for carp. So you need a rod that's got a bit of beef in it for handling carp and F1s. All right. Whereas the flip side of that, when you're fishing on rivers, certainly the rivers I grew up on and the rivers that I fish now, we were always, you know, told and led to believe that we would always use a 13-foot match rod, as we call it. All right. So the rods tend to be 13 foot. And that's because a lot of the rivers that we fish, you need 13 foot because you might be fishing full depth, which might be 10, 11, 12 foot. And obviously you can't do that properly on an 11-foot rod. So my river rods are 13-foot rods. And obviously, you know, if you're casting a waggler, that'll help you to fish full depth if you need to fish full depth. But obviously, if it's a faster flowing river and you're fishing with a stick float, then that will, because the rod's 13 foot, it will get your rod that little bit further out there to give you better control of your float. Now, there are 14-foot rods, 15-foot rods, 17, 20-foot rods. And obviously, you could then go down the bollo route, which are 6 and 7 meters long. All right. So that's why I couldn't really name a rod that would do both jobs. I'm sorry if that's a rubbish answer. The only way around it would be, Adam, is if the river that you were fishing was a shallow, narrow river, you know, that would allow you to use an 11-foot rod. If you are fishing in depths up to 9 foot or whatever, if you are fishing full depth with a stick float and you're doing it close in, then you could get away with it if you're after decent fish, if they were a big chub or something. But no, I'm sorry if that's a rubbish answer, Adam. But no, I can't think of one rod that would do both jobs, unfortunately. If anybody else does, though, please feel free to comment in the chat and let Adam know. But I don't know of one, unfortunately, mate. Dean Queen, hi from Doncaster, fishing Lindholme tomorrow with the missus. Fantastic, mate. Oh, the weather's a bit better. I've been out there today and it's rained for probably 5 out of the 7 hours, I think. But it wasn't at Lindholme. But yeah. Derek's here, Michael, Stuart, Neville, hi mate. Steve Norbury's here. Hello from Moldova. Good evening. Hope you are okay. Hi, Jamie. What is the best waggler rod? I mean, I'm only using 2 waggler rods. You know, I'm not saying they are the best, but they are very, very good and do the job that I need them to do. You know, and they are matrix rods. An 11-foot pellet waggler rod, which says it all. That's exactly what that does. And then I've got an 11-foot float rod, which is it's like an old match rod, so it's an 11-foot, and that's what I use for silverfish, and that's what I use on rivers. So they're the only 2 that I use. All right, and I just keep it simple as that. Okay. Right, great to see so many people on. That's brilliant. Let me just have a quick scan of the chat, because I like to acknowledge everybody where I can. Derek, Michael, Stuart, I've said hello to everybody there. Thank you, everybody. Jason Bounds, have you repainted the room? No, it's been like this for about 6 months now, Jason. You just haven't seen it because most of the videos that I've put on YouTube have been from out on the bank, and I don't do so many videos from the tackle room now. You know, that's why you probably haven't seen it. I do use this for more of the members videos where I'm doing, like, there might be riggy tactics type fishing, you know, all that behind the scenes kind of stuff. Tom Parry, evening. Hi, mate. Andrew, hi, Jamie. What feed do you use when paste fishing, and what do you use for your paste? I haven't fished with a paste for about 7 years, so obviously it's not something that I'm right up to speed on at the moment. But I mean, when I did fish paste, I did do all right with it. I only tended to use it for bigger fish. I know there are some venues where you can catch fish of all stamps on it, but you know, the people that I know that fish with paste now, they use the Sonobait's 50/50 paste, and I'll be absolutely honest with you, I was amazed. I was out with somebody coaching at Lindholme actually a few months ago, and he mixed some up on the day, and it was just dead easy to mix, just 50/50, so it's half and half basically. And we never actually fished with it, I'll be honest with you, because we were too busy catching on pellets and other things, and we went down the pellet Waggler route and focused on that. But I'll tell you what, the paste, by the end of the day, it was still exactly how it was when he mixed it, and it had been left out in the sun. The sun had been on it, dried it out a little bit, and it was still usable for the hook. I couldn't believe it. So if I was going to go down that route, which I might do this summer, you know, it depends on what venues I go to, then I would just use the 50-50, simple as that. And quite often, I always, whenever I did fish with it, I just use the paste itself to feed. So what I would generally do, if I want to kickstart the swim, so if you was going to prime the swim before you went on it, I'd probably just put 30 or 40 micro pellets in just to kickstart it, and then just go in with my paste over the top. Because obviously what happens if you are a paste angler, you know that it's very similar to the method feeder, where it's a self-feeding way of fishing. So if you don't get a fish, if you don't get a bite, when you lift your rig out, it leaves a ball of paste there. So it's automatically set up for your next fish. But obviously, if you do get a bite and hook a fish, then that's dispersed some of the paste in the swim. And then obviously you go again and hopefully catch another fish. So every time you're striking a ball of the paste off, you're actually feeding the swim. Just like with a method feeder, every time you cast out, it's like putting a ball of bait there with your hook bait in the middle, you know, and when you reel in, you've left some bait there, you know, and that's why I never really found that you had to set it up much other than just putting a few micro pellets in. But you could set it up with a ball of paste. You know, if you want to leave micro pellets out of the equation altogether and keep it even simpler, just put a cup of ball of paste in, nice and wet, and then just go in with your ball of paste over the top just to set it off to get it going, if that makes sense. And then just a nice, you know, a nice big bristle, fish dead depth, a nice long bristle that the weight of the ball of the paste actually sits on the bottom, so it's just shot at just right. Okay, like that, so that if the paste does come off, which we know it comes off, you know, depending on how wet or sloppy it is, or if a fish wafts it off, then your float's going to rise up like that and let you know that the paste has come off. So sorry if I'm telling you how to suck eggs on that one. Right, there's a couple more things in there that I'm going to go through. Right, one or two of the things that I really want to talk to you about tonight is I've got one or two questions. I've had one or two common questions recently about, actually two of them are, they're both really relating to method feeder fishing. Now, I've done lots of method feeder videos, and I will be doing more because there's different ways of fishing the method feeder, you know, for different scenarios, different species, different size fish, different baits, and all that sort of thing. And it's a very, very popular topic, you know, and whilst I don't want to keep repeating the videos that I produce on this channel, I do want to keep them fresh, and I want to keep them interactive, but I also want them to be of interest to you, you know. And if people are interested in method feeder fishing, then, you know, it makes sense for me to keep uploading variations of method feeder videos. Okay, now one of them I got asked, one of the questions is that some of the videos that I've produced over the last 24 months have really been from fisheries where you've got to use their pellets. And a lot of people have kind of been asking me what kind of pellets I use when I can use my own. So, you know, if I've got free reign, what pellets would I use? Now, I'll be absolutely honest with you, for the last year, I've used the Sonobaits pellets, okay? Prior to that, I used a lot of the Ringer Baits pellets. Now, I'll be absolutely honest with you, as with most things in fishing, you know, a lot of it is down to confidence, you know, and if you've been out and caught lots of fish with a certain type of pellet and you're allowed to use it, keep using it. You know, simple as that. I mean, why would you change? Yeah, I wouldn't change, all right? But if you're not catching as many fish as the people around you, or if you're having problems with the pellets, if you're not getting the soak time right, or you don't think they're staying on the feeder properly, or you think they're staying on the feeder too well and they're not actually coming off, or coming out of the open method feeder or a hybrid feeder if you're using that, because obviously loading your feeder on a normal feeder as opposed to an open method or a hybrid style feeder is different, okay? If you are having problems, then you might want to look at the type of pellet that you're using. The first thing I would honestly say to you is that just have an experiment with them. The beauty about getting pellet times right, they're the ones that I've used the most of recently over the last 12 months. Okay, the F1 pellet. And I'll tell you why in a minute. But the beauty of those is that you can find out what the soak time is on those at home. You can do it in your kitchen. You don't have to have a day off work. You don't have to sacrifice a day away from your family to go fishing to do it. You can do it at home, you know. It can take half an hour. Just get a bait tub, put some water in it, soak the pellets and time them. You know, if you want to get more critical about it, you can take the temperature of the water, because that will make a difference, believe me. You know, in winter, when if you soak the pellets by the lake, when the water's cold, it takes longer for the pellets to soak in the water because the water's cold. And on the flip side of that, in summer, when it's warmer, it will take less time. So it's very, very easy, unless you're aware of that, to ruin your pellets. Because once you over soak them, they've gone. You know, you've got to throw them away or find another way of introducing them into your swim. And, you know, yeah, you might get away with that, but it's not ideal, is it? So the best thing I would always say to anybody is that, certainly, I mean, this is a big problem on fisheries. I literally, even now, having been fishing at, you know, and on a very steep learning curve for the last 10 years, since I got back into match fishing or into fishing, even now, I think it was last week or the week before, I was amazed how quick some pellets actually broke down. In fact, it was last week. I went to a fishery and I had to use their pellets like I do. And I literally gave these pellets, they were micro pellets, 2 mil pellets, and I gave them 90 seconds. And I'll tell you what, they were just about done. I only just got away with using them. And I literally had to put them on a big tray to dry them all out. They were there for an hour, drying out. And they were still not quite right. And that was after 90 seconds. You know, and I thought I was erring on the side of caution there by not soaking them too much, because obviously if you don't soak them too much and they are not quite soft enough, then obviously you can always add water to them again and soak them a bit more. Are you with me? So I'd always say err on the side of caution, but you can experiment. If you've got your favourite batch, experiment at home. It's great fun, you know. And then once you start doing that, put them around a feeder and have a look at how they actually break down. It can scare the life out of you. I've been on the bank today. I've actually been to Cudmore Fisheries today. I've been on Arena Lake. I've been coaching James today. First time I've met him, and he's had an absolutely fantastic day. It rained for most of the day. His average stamp of the fish he's been catching has probably been between, I'd say, about 6-7 pound. You know, his biggest was 12 pound. He's caught on the method feeder early, and then he switched to the pole, and he's caught on the deck. And then we switched to a shallow rig. He's caught on that. And then we've gone down the margin later on, and he's caught some big fish down the margin later on. Absolutely fantastic. But one of the things that I asked him to do was to simply load his feeder up just as though he was going to cast it out. And it was amazing how it wasn't doing what he thought it was. And it surprised me as well, because sometimes when you pack your feeder thinking that's just right for how you want it, test it first. Because sometimes it really opens your eyes, you know, because it'll either be the pellets will be expanded and coming off the feeder much quicker, or on the flip side of that, they might be on there much longer. You know, I've done it in the past and I've been amazed what's happened. You know, so once you do that, it gives you a better understanding of what's actually happening with your rig and your bait. And once you do that, that then gives you even more confidence for when you actually cast it out there and you're sat waiting for a bite, because you know that your rig's working how you want it to work. You know, and it's great fun to do that. You know, when you're at home, you know, when you can't get out on the bank and you've got to spare half an hour, you know, just try it, you know. And pellet wise, I mean, like I say, these are the F1 pellets, all right. Now, I'm not going to say that they're the best pellet in the world, all right. All I'm saying is they are absolutely perfect for all the fishing that I've been doing where I've been allowed to use them, all right. And the reason why these are F1 is because they've got the F1 flavour on there. Now, all the time I'm talking about people enjoying the fishing. You know, hopefully it comes across in my videos that I just want people to enjoy the fishing. You know, I've been on the bank today with James, and we could have quite easily just had a day's fishing. But there were things that he really wanted to work on, and I'm very, very pleased that he stuck at working on those things, like casting straight. You know, and within 20 minutes, he was happy with what was happening. We changed a couple of things, and that was it. And straight away, you could see that he started enjoying his day more. And if he's going fishing and he is being able to, he can cast to where he wants to cast to, you know, and he is able to fire those pellets around his float, I'm not saying it's going to catch him loads more fish. Ultimately, it should do. But if it doesn't, well, he's still enjoying it, you know, because he's doing what he wants it to do, you know. And that's what I always said about fishing. One of the things that sucks a lot of pleasure out of fishing is the cost. It's never been more expensive to go fishing, let's face it. And the thing is, with pellets like that, they are F1 flavoured pellets. So it means you haven't got to go out and then buy a jug of, or a carton or a tub of F1 liquid to add to your pellets to get that flavour. All right, so it works out cheaper if you use these in moderation. Don't mix a whole bag up every time you go. Measure them out. It's amazing how few you will actually use in a session. So always measure your bait out. I can carry these knowing that they've got the F1 flavour there. I haven't had to go out and get a tub of F1 liquid. I haven't got to mess about adding the liquid to these. All right, And it also means that I'm carrying one less thing in my bag. So I'm just carrying them. All right. And if you don't want them to have that really strong F1 flavour, all I do is in winter and springtime when the water's cold and getting into winter, I just cut them with normal F1 pellets. All right. So I just get the F1 pellets, the normal ones, half and half with these. So you end up with a very mild F1 flavour, if you think that makes a difference. All right. But I just like the smell. I mean, the lake we fished today, I'm not kidding. It's a long time since I've seen a lake as coloured as that, but it's not like a deep, like a brown. It was almost a red colour, you know. And when waters are coloured like that, fish are relying on sight much less. You know, they're relying more on smell. And that's why I'm a huge believer that, especially in coloured water, I'm much more confident with pellets that have got some sort of flavour on them. All right. And the other thing that I just want to touch on, because this stems off a lot of the questions that have been getting asked, is that when I soak my pellets, soak them, all right, soak them for a minute, drain the water off, or 90 seconds, wherever you think's right to how you want them. Take the pellets out of the water, and I then use that tub of water to mix my ground bait with, because that water is absolutely loaded with the flavour of pellet and F1. All right, it's everything that you want here, so why wouldn't you want that into your ground bait as well? It's going to give it a boost, and again, that means you don't have to buy another glug to go in your ground bait. So you're giving your ground bait a boost, and that is exactly the same as well. F1 corn. The juice out of that you can put into the water that you've got and use that to mix your ground bait with. All right, I see lots of people not doing things like that, and they think, well, you don't really think about it. And then when it comes to mixing the ground bait, they get a couple of bottles of flavouring out and then start adding that to the water, you know. And when the 7, 8, 9 quid a bottle, it soon adds up, doesn't it? It soon adds up when you've already got them here. That's the point. Okay, so that's a topic that I've been getting asked a lot. And if anyone's got any spin-off questions about that, please let me know. So that's one of the topics that I just wanted to quickly cover tonight for you. And just have a look at how your feed is emptying. You know, you can do that at home. It's amazing, because sometimes you might think that you've squeezed, or squoze, how'd you say it, the pellets on really tight. And with some pellet, depending on how you've soaked them, they could be coming off the feeder within 10, 20 seconds. You know, and if you're fishing in deeper water or you're waiting longer for bites, you might not want that effect. You might want them to be, you know, certainly, I mean, I've seen people fishing method feeders in 12 feet of water. Now, if your pellets are coming off in 5, 10 seconds, you know, there's a lot of chance that a lot of them are coming off on the way down, which is not what you want, or it might be what you want, but at least you know. I'm not saying what you need to achieve. What I'm saying is you want your rig and your bait to perform how you want it to perform, so if that makes sense. Right, so I've got one or two other things here I just want to quickly tell you about. I've had a couple of questions today about coaching, ideally, ironically, because I have actually been out today. As a lot of you may know, I have talked about this on my membership channel, but not so much here on YouTube. I have literally cancelled something like 25 one-to-one coaching days this year. And that, well, not cancel them all, but turn some down and bits and bobs. Basically, the reason why I've done that, or the main reason why I've done that, is because I'm starting to, I want to spend more time filming. Simple as that. And obviously, you know, I need to be on the bank to do that. So that's why I've done what I've done. So getting access to one-to-one days with myself is a lot more difficult this year. All right. So, but what we've done is we've put more group coaching days in. All right. So I'm just going to tell you about 3 that are happening in June, because this is just to let you know what's happening in June. All right. Because on this channel, you know, a lot of things get mentioned on the membership channel, on Facebook. A lot of you aren't on Facebook. A lot of you, you know, aren't aware of what's happening. So I just want to flag these up to you. Okay. So the first one is the 2nd of June. All right. Now I'm going to put a link to these underneath the video at the end of this stream for you. All right. 2nd of June is the first one. There are only 3, so I just want to mention them because I hate it when people say I didn't know about that. The first one we've got is 2nd of June, which is not far away, and that's at Lindholme Lakes, and we're actually on Laurels Lake. Now, there's a couple of spaces left on that. This is with myself and England manager Dean Barlow, where Dean's going to be demonstrating carp and F1 fishing. That'll be running line tactics and on the pole as well. Okay, so there are spaces available on that if anyone is interested, and that's on Laurels Lake, which is fishing fantastic at the moment. I've just put a link to that in the chat for you. Okay, now the next one is the following day. All right, so that is the 3rd of June, and again that's at Lindholme Lakes. You know, it's an ideal venue for this because there's the cafe on site where we can meet, the tackle shop there. So this one's the 3rd of June, and this one is actually on one of my favourite lakes. It's actually on Loco Lake, which is a fantastic lake because it's stuffed full of carp F1s. They're not incredibly easy to catch, to be fair, a lot of the time. And it's a deeper venue. It's one way it's 10, 11 feet deep. Are you with me? So it opens up lots of different avenues. Lots of the commercials we fish are shallow, and that's fair enough, you know. But when you've got 4 or 5 feet to play with, that's okay. But when you start getting into the realms of 10 and 12 feet deep, it opens up all sorts of avenues, you know, because you've got bomb and pellet, you've got the pellet waggler, you've got the pole shallow, pole deep, pole at half depth. You've then got deep margins as well on those venues, you know, for that 5-6 meter line. You've also got the margins. So the Loco one is going to be, if it was me, I'd be going on that one. I will obviously be there on those days. So that one is the 3rd of June. So there's still some spaces left on that as well. Okay, and the final one that I just want to mention for you, just so you're aware of it. Now, this one's a little bit more specialised, and I think there are a couple of places left on there. And that is advanced feeder fishing. All right, and as the name suggests, it's all about feeder fishing, but what we would consider an advanced level, which means, you know, we're not bothering with the realms of casting straight, hitting your clip, clipping up. Forget all that. It's the finer details of feeder fishing at the top level. All right, Dean Barlow's there again with myself. I'm there all day, and that one is actually at Barston Lakes. Okay, which is a very popular venue. There's a couple of places left on that, and that is the 23rd of June. I think that's a Friday. Okay. So that should be I'm really looking forward to that one, you know, because like I say, that is the one where, you know, we won't have people who are just getting into the sport, learning how to do the basics. That is like the top level advanced stuff that you probably won't hear anywhere else. I mean, where else would you want to hear advanced feeder fishing techniques and tactics other than from the England feeder team manager? I mean, it's perfect, isn't it? So yeah, so they're the 3 days during June that I just wanted to make you aware of. Okay, so I've got a couple more things that I want to show you. I've got something I want to tell you about my method feeder hook lens, which I think has not transformed, but it's had a big impact on my fishing, you know, and it's a tiny, tiny detail, you know, but when you look at the things that we learned from some of the carp anglers, it's just something that I started doing, and I honestly think it's caught me extra fish, but I'll talk about that in a moment. 334 Outdoors, thank you very much. Greetings from Florida. Enjoy the videos. I have 2 questions that will be too long for this chat, but still keep up the good work. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you for that. If you want to fire it in the question, just fire it in the question. And thank you for your super chat. Thank you very much. Let me just have a quick check I just want to make sure I'm not missing out on any questions here, because I do like to answer the live questions. Right then, so Randolph, I've got to head out to work, but I'd like to ask, what's your go-to tactics when it really quiet on a commercial? Seem to have really good starts and ends to matches, but very quiet in the middles. You've probably gone now, Randolph. I do apologise because I've only just seen that. You can watch this on playback anyway. Yeah, I mean, we've had that today. You know, it's quite funny how you start a session really well, you catch a few fish, and then it goes rubbish for the middle 2 hours or whatever, and then you're hoping, music, sometimes have a great ending as well, you know. And it's so frustrating when that happens, you know, because certainly if you're a match angler, if you can keep fish going in the net during that period, then that obviously coupled with a good start and your good finish, that can obviously be all you need to win the match, you know. And I've seen it today. We've been to Cudmore today. In the middle part of the session today, it went quiet. The fish spooked out a little bit, and we just had to change tact, you know. And I think sometimes what happens is when they see that there's a few, I mean, there could be different factors for it. I'll be absolutely honest with you. It could quite simply just be the time of the day. You know, it could be the fact that that's the warmest time of the day, and that's when the sun's at its highest. It could be anything like that. But I think sometimes, I don't think any of those was the issue today. I think the issue today for us was that the fish just spooked out. I think, you know, we caught a few of them. You know, the fish were there. We caught a few, and then they just got cagier and cagier and cagier. And you know, whilst, you know, James was loose feeding pellets on his pole line, there were fish 1.5 meters, 2 meters behind his feed. You could see them cruising about on the top. They were still there, but they just really backed off. So all we had to do basically was just try and coax them back. And one of the things I would do in that scenario is that what you ultimately, or a lot of the time, what you want to do is try and get the fish, give them that confidence back. Because what we'd done today, we'd fed pellet, loose-fed pellet on the pole line for an hour. And then when we went on it, the fish were already confident. So we've gone and caught a few fish on that, but then they backed off again. So quite often, sometimes what we have to do in that scenario is that we were confident that, you know, we were fishing the right depth and all that business because you caught a few fish. We knew there was some fish there because we could see them about 1.5 meters past our float. You know, they kept breaking the surface because they were obviously up in the water. So in a scenario like that, one of the things and easiest things you could do is quite simply put the pole down again, go back on the feeder and start loose feeding that line again so that you can build up the confidence of the fish. Let the fish have a few free pellets, let them build up the confidence again, you know, where ultimately when you think the time's right, you can go back on it and have another run of fish. And the ideal scenario would be while you're resting the pole line, you catch 1 or 2 on your method feeder line as well. Are you with me? So sometimes a lot of people think that when they built a line up like that and they go on it, they think that they're going to catch on that while the end of the match, you know, and as you know, that's not always the case. It's very nice when that does happen, but let's face it, it doesn't happen very often, does it? So sometimes all that hard work you've done in giving the fish that confidence, you built it up, and then when you've gone on it, they've had the confidence for you to catch 2, 3, 4 or whatever. Sometimes you've got to repeat that, you know, if they've backed off. And then if you can do things like that to buy your time until you come down your margins later on, when hopefully you're going to have a good finish, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense, Raldolph. I'm sorry if I've missed you, if I've read that after you've gone to work, but you can watch this on playback. Chris is here, Thomas, George. Hi, George. Hi, Jamie from South Africa. One question I have, under what circumstances would you use a longer hook link, like 1 meter, for example? The main time that I would use a longer hook link would be on a feeder, would be if I think the fish are up in the water. Ultimately, with a 1 meter hook length, when you cast out, your feeder hits the bottom. If you've got a 1 meter hook length, your hook bait, which is here, is obviously, because it's 1 meter long, is going to be falling for longer. That's the bottom line. All right, a general approach on, obviously it's easy to talk generally, but 50 centimeters is a nice length to start at. You know, quite often lots of the English venues and stuff will start on 50 centimeters. If we're catching, that's great. If we're missing bites, quite often we'll shorten it. But if we're not getting any bites, put 1 meter on, and sometimes even 1.5 meters. You know, if you're catching fish that are up in the water, I mean, I know you're in South Africa, so I don't know if you find a longer hook lengths are good for carp. Here in England, we might be fishing for eyed that are up in the water or roach. In Ireland, we use longer hook lengths for hybrids. You know, hybrids are up in the water, and that's why I was in Ireland a week ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever. I had hook lengths there that were 1.5 meters long for that reason. 3, 4 maggots on 5 maggots, and just to give it a nice slow fall. So that would be the main time that we would do that, George, just to give your bait more chance to be spotted by fish. And obviously, when your feeder goes down and it stops getting, when it hits the bottom and your hook length stops getting dragged down and can suddenly fall under its own weight, then you're positioning the hook bait nearer to those fish that are up in the water, if that makes sense. I hope it does make sense. All right. Nick Birkinshaw, hi, mate. Drennan, Vertex or Acolyte or both good. There you go. Nice suggestion. Waggler rods there from Nick. Thank you, mate. Mickey's here. Good evening. Nick, quick question for James Atkins. There we go. Question for you there, James. If you're still on, James Atkins, message from Nick Birkinshaw. Dimitar, good evening, mate. Jamie 1. Almost fishing related question. If you know, why Sonobaits stopped their deliveries of Eastern Europe and did they plan to restore it? We really want to try the So Natural mixers here. Dimitar, I don't know, but if it makes you feel any better, I've had problems getting deliveries to me as well. I'm not quite sure what's gone off. I haven't asked the question and I haven't listened to rumours. But yeah, there have been issues with supply. My last bait order, it took 3 weeks, 4 weeks to get here, when normally it could be the next day or two. So yeah, we've had problems here as well, Dimitar, but I'll see if I can find out for you though, mate. I'll message them. I haven't got my phone here. My phone's downstairs, I think. Yeah, so sorry. I'll find out for you, Dimitar. VX Falling, I've had a question I've wanted answering for so long when I hear about it in matches. What is a Carasio? I think I spell it correctly. Yeah, it's actually spelled, there's an S. It's Carasio. K-A-S-S-I-O, I think. Yeah, Carasio. Carasio it's like a crucian carp. It's like a crucian carp and an F1 crossed, if that describes it. They feed very, very similar. We don't have so many here in England, but there are much more of them actually on, mainland Europe. So yeah, we don't get a chance to fish from much. There are some in one or two fisheries in this country, but they aren't very common at all. So yeah, they can be very difficult fish to catch. Crony, hope you're enjoying your couple of days refresh. Hope your dad well also. Yes, Dad's very well, thank you. Dean Queen, just binge watched most of your vids in the last week after getting back into pleasure fishing and see you on YouTube. Love the match videos. Thank you, Dean. There will be more this year. I mean, there are a few things coming up, just to let you know, on the live match front. I know a lot of you like the live matches. I'm going to be mixing it up a little bit with the live matches. I'm going to be filming them in a slightly different way from now on. I'm just going to experiment with it, really. I'm just going to be featuring much more of the actual fishing. So I've got to pick my matches carefully on that, because if you are a long-term viewer to this channel, some of the venues I fish, I might only be fishing for 2 bites. And it's a little bit difficult making a video about a venue where you only get 2 bites. So I will have to pick and choose the venues for that. But yeah, I'm going to increase the pace of the match fishing videos for you, just to include more fishing. The problem is, for me, I like to give people lots of information, wherever I possibly can about, the experience of fishing in these matches. And unfortunately, sometimes that means quite a bit of talking. But that's the only way I can get across and give you more information. So there will be, more fishing in those. So hopefully you will enjoy those new match fishing videos that are coming through the rest of this year. But thanks for watching them, Dean. Thanks for watching them. Appreciate that, mate. James Atkins, Andrew Person, I use hemp. And, oh, that's good. You're chatting amongst yourselves. That's good. David Smith. Hey, Jamie. Sorry I'm late. How's it going? How's Dad? Very well, David. Thank you, mate. And he's very, very well. Thank you. We've got 3 matches this weekend. So he's going to be out in the elements again with me. So we're looking forward to that. Simon Steele. Hi, Simon. I want to fish Loch Earn in the north. All right, Loch Earn in the north. Could you tell me anything about it and the best way to get there from South England? Yeah, I mean, it's easy to get to, Simon. I mean, I always cross from Holyhead. Okay, so I drive from my home over to Holyhead. It's about 70 mile to Holyhead. Cross from Holyhead to Dublin. There are 2 choices of ferry. One is a fast ferry and one is the slower ferry. The slower one takes 4 hours. The other faster one is called the Swift, the Dublin Swift, and that takes 2 hours. And once you get into Dublin, it's only literally a mile or 2, and then you can actually go either on a toll road, which gets you there much quicker, up to Enniskillen. That'd be the best thing. A lot of the venues around Enniskillen, you can get the toll road straight up to Enniskillen. Takes you about, how long does it take? 2 hours, 2.5 hours. But it's just one, it's a dead easy drive. And that's simple as that, mate. I will go up to Enniskillen, so there's lots of venues around there. And they'll be the venues that you've probably heard about in matches and stuff, because they're a lot of the match stretches. So yeah, it's really nice fishing. It can be a bit wild, so take your waterproofs just in case. Right then, so many on here. That's great. Right then, I'm just trying not to miss anyone out. I might have done. Jamie, what are your thoughts on Dave Preston's new bait offering Fuka pellets, etc.? I haven't tried them. Simple as that. Sorry if that's a rubbish answer, Steve. But I was out with somebody last week, and he's caught loads of fish on the soft yellow ones that come in the tube. He's caught lots of fish on them, But it's one of them, Steve. It's confidence. Unless you try them, you're not going to get confidence with them, are you? Simple as that, But I know lots of people that have tried them, not caught. But I know other people that swear blind by them. So I honestly can't say too much, Steve. I don't really know, but I don't know many lads that are using them on the open match circuit. I'm not saying they're not using them, because they might be using them and not telling me or mentioning it. But I haven't heard anybody say that they're using it. But like I said, at the level that we fish at now, as you know, if people were catching on them, we probably wouldn't hear about it anyway. They want to keep it up the sleeve, wouldn't they? I would. Nathan, are we going to see you on any of the Northern River Masters qualifiers in the future? Some awesome bream waters on them. I don't honestly know, Nathan. The way things are at the moment, like I said, because I've cancelled or turned down 25 coaching days, I've done that to free up more dates. And I've spent a fortune in the last 2 weeks actually booking onto matches right the way up to the end of the year. So my calendar is pretty full at the moment, with the exception of midweek days, which is what I've left free, obviously, or a lot of weekdays for filming and getting out on the bank. So I'd like to have a crack at them. I'll be absolutely honest with you, Nathan. But A, I don't know the venues that well. And B, when I have looked at them, they've always clashed with something else. So yes, I'd like to, mate. Yeah, but I know there's some good fishing up there. Hi, Jamie. Do you fish any of the venues in North Yorkshire, like the Woodlands or Oaks, etc.? When I got back into fishing 10 years ago, I did go on 1 or 2 of those venues when I was trying to find my feet, find where I wanted to position myself in fishing, and where I wanted to go. I did go there once or twice to those venues, but I literally haven't been up there for about 8-9 years now. But no, I know quite a few lads that fish the Oaks at Sessie, and Woodlands. But I know there's a hell of a lot of pole fishing up there. And that's part of the reason why I haven't been as well, because I haven't been doing so much pole fishing until these last few weeks. You know, because they're not feeder orientated venues, everything I've done in the last 8 years has really kind of revolved around feeder fishing. And because they're not feeder fishing venues, that's why I haven't been there. So that's the real reason. But I know they're cracking venues. I know that. Victorio, hello from Germany. Good evening. More versatile rig, big carp fishing on the lake in this period. How about bait? Versatile rig. I mean, most of the fishing that we do for carp is really revolving around the method feeder. You know, it really is. You know, the only time we change from that really is in winter. We might switch to a maggot feeder where we want to be less selective. Sometimes we fish with a cage feeder with banded pellet or a soft pellet or a pellet that you can put onto a speed stop. All right. And again, if I was going to do that, it'd just be free running cage rig, simple as that, nice and simple, and then just vary the length of the hook length. You know, if it's a deeper water, you might want a longer hook length, but the more often than not, on the commercials that we fish, when we fish like that, we're fishing with shorter hook lengths, you know, because the fish are coming to the pellets, so we like a shorter hook length. So I don't know if they're the kind of rigs that you mean. Hopefully they are, Victorio. Someone else. Hi, Simon. Evening, Jamie. Fished my first open match last weekend. Just my luck, I drew the worst peg on the lake, which was only 2 feet deep all over, but I still ended up with £7 of silvers and £8 of carp. Well done, mate. You had a day's fishing. That's the main thing. Just keep trying to enjoy it. That's the main thing. There are so many people out there not enjoying it. So I'm going to be on here for about another 20 minutes or so tonight. Okay, so I just want to mention these to you. I've got a couple of questions to ask you in a moment. All right. In fact, I'll ask you one of the questions now, and then I'm going to go on to the other topic that I just want to mention to you about a method feeder fishing that I just want to quickly share with you. I've had so many great responses from, again, it's tying in with the coaching. You know, there's so many people out there that want to improve the game. They might just want to learn how to cast straight. They might be getting in tangles. They might not know what combination of rod to go with reel. It could be anything like that. I know people that they keep breaking the quiver tips. I mean, I cannot think of anything more frustrating than breaking your tip when you're casting in, you know, because not only is it embarrassing to people around you, it's frustrating, but when you're smashing a tip as well, you're breaking a tip, you know, and some of the tips out there, I think the Daiwa tips now are about £40 each. Some are £30 each. Even the cheaper ones are 20 quid, 25 quid. So if that's happening, it's happening for a reason, you know, and that's why a lot of people want a bit of one-to-one coaching or to come on one of the group days. But obviously now, as you know, there is an alternative, and that is the courses that are produced. Now, I've got to say a massive thank you. If any of you on here tonight have downloaded and enrolled on our online courses, there have been over 700 people enroll on those courses, which is absolutely fantastic that we can reach out and help people, you know, for a few quid, that's helping them enjoy the fishing. And we've had so many messages from people saying, you know, they really helped. They can download them onto the computer, watch them as many times as they want. All right. So if you're one of those 700 people, thank you very much. Okay. And I just want to let you know, we are enrolling more courses out this year. All right. Now, there are 2 or 3 that are in the pipeline already to cover different topics to help improve your fishing. whatever it might be, just to fast track it. All right. What I want to ask you is, what kind of courses would you like to see? If you're one of those people that would be interested in doing a course or another course, if you've already done them, what kind of topics do you think will help you improve your fishing that we can do, that I can do online for you, that you can download to a computer? So you've got in a series of lessons, you can just work your way through it. And if there's any lessons you want to save on your computer, then you can download it and save it and work on it. So please let me know what kind of topics you'd like to see, or what kind of courses you'd like to see that I can produce for you, and we can produce for you, because Dean Barlow is part of that as well, that we can produce to help you learn from home without you having to drive 300 miles to come on a day's one-to-one fishing. Or you might live in Europe, you know, mainland Europe, where we're never going to meet. Okay, so please let me know your ideas on that. Now, one of the other topics that I got asked about was hook lengths. Now, somebody, as you probably know, there's lots of videos out there. I mean, I've produced now, I think it's coming over probably 600, maybe 700 video. No, I think it's over 700 videos now. And as you can imagine, there's always somebody looking over your shoulder, or looking, what's that on his bait tray? What's that? Or I've noticed he never does that, or I've noticed he does that, but why? There's lots of people out there like that, and I'm sure I've done it watching other people's videos and stuff, because I obviously want to pick up any sort of an edge. Now, one of the things a couple of people have picked up on is that they've spotted that my method feeder hook lengths aren't in the usual method feeder hook length box. Now, that's the one where your hook length goes from top to bottom and they're stored nicely and you can get loads on there. Now, a couple of people spotted that I don't actually do that, and that's because I store my hook lengths in one of those. So even though they are 4-inch hook lengths, which would easily fit in there on the pins, you know, the pin box for the method feeder hook lengths, for the short hook lengths, I prefer to use spools. Now, the reason why I prefer to use spools is the downside to that is that you can't get as many in here as what you can in one of those others. All right, but that's, you know, that's not an issue for me. The issue for me is that when you store your hook length on one of those, if it's the thicker diameter line that you're using, like I like to use, you know, I like to use 022, 020. I very rarely go less than that, depending if it's an F1 venue or you might be targeting bream or something. But if I'm after carp, you know, a lot of the venues, excuse me, a lot of the venues that I fish have got carp in excess of up to £30. And if I'm going to be hooking one of those, I want to land it. You know, 20-pounders are very common these days on some of the venues I fish. And the other thing as well is you might be fishing close to features. Quite often we're putting method feeders in places that are a little bit tricky. You know, it might be underneath a platform at the next peg, you know, next to some scaffolding poles, or they could be up to a reed bed or an overhanging tree or a bush. Well, the first point of contact for your rig that's going to get anywhere near those is going to be your hook length, isn't it? You know, because that's the first fish. Where the fish bolts towards a snag, that is where your hook length is, and it's only 4 inches long. I like something that's really nice and tough. So I tend to use 022, 020 for the majority of my fishing. But that does obviously say a lot about the venues that I fish. You know, I fish places like Barston Lakes, LARFORD Lakes, you know, there are big fish there. And what you find is that with hook lengths of that diameter, 4 inch long, when they're stored on a spool like that, they actually take on board that shape. All right. And from studying lots of carp rig books and things over the years, you know, it's one of the first things, well, one of the things when I started taking my method feeder fishing much more seriously 5 years ago, that was one of the things I did. And if you're into that, you know, there is obviously a lot of content actually on YouTube and stuff where you can have a look at carp rigs and that sort of thing. But I prefer to get a book, because it means that when I sit down on the settee at night, if I'm just chilling out, relaxing, you can just have it on the table there next to you, and it's quite easy while you're having a coffee or a beer or whatever you do at the end of your evening. It's just, you can just open it up and just browse through it. And it's amazing by doing that, the things that you can pick up. Because ultimately, a lot of the things that we're picking up about carp fishing, about the way we present, particularly a method feeder, present wafters, boilies, we've learned most of this from the specimen carp anglers. All we've done is, in most cases, is just refined it a little bit. That's all we've done to suit our match fishing and our course fishing. And one of the things that was very important on the rigs and things that I was looking at, and the way that fish get hooked about when a carp sucks that bait in, is having a rig that's turning in like a chod rig. Okay, so by storing my hook lengths on that, certainly in the 022 diameters, it's keeping that shape, which I strongly believe helps me have more hookups properly. I mean, when you do that coupled with your hook that's turning in as well, you know, so that you, when you've got your hook on the line, the line is coming out of the front edge of the eye on the hook, which means that the hook turns in like that. All those little things help you to have more correct hookups. Because one of the things, I mean, I've been talking about it today with James at Cudmore, and that is that the one thing with the method feeder is that you're relying on that rig 100% to hook the fish for you. You know, once you fill that feeder up to how you like to fill it, and you whack it out there into the lake, you put the rod down, that's it then. You just sit back. You know, you're not reading the tip, trying to hit bites. There's none of that, because you're just waiting for it to hook itself and go. So that's why it's so critically important to have all these little elements right, because you want to stack as many things in your favor of that rig hooking the fish for you, you know. And that's why when I talk to you about having a look at the way that these break down, having a look at how they expand off your feeder, having a look at the way that your hook bait sits, does it sit in the middle of the feed? You'd be amazed how many people's aren't, you know, but you don't know that without trying it. You know, it's very much about balance. And that, what I've just showed you there, just gives it another little percentage chance, or 2% chance of each time a fish sucks that bait in, that is going to hook itself for you. All right, and when you couple that with all the other things, like you might have a better pattern of hook, your hair rig might be better, you might have a wafter on, which is nice and light and buoyant. The hook bait is staying in the middle of your feed's breaking down in the time that you want. But when you put all those together, you know, that 1 or 2% you've got there, coupled with all the others, you can suddenly find that your rig might be 10-15% more efficient, which is going to equal more hooked fish, if that makes sense. So that's just something that I wanted to mention to you, because a couple of people spotted that I don't know many other. There might be other people that carry their hook method feeder hook lengths like that. I don't know, within match fishing, perhaps they do, but the vast majority of people use the up and down box, you know, with the pins at the top and the bottom. All right, so they're actually stored straight. But that's just something I wanted to share with you. Okay, so I want to have a quick look at the chat before the last little topic that I want to answer, or I want to ask you. Yep, so I hope I've answered those. I don't think I missed any. Richard Webb. Jamie, some anglers say that a right-hander should cast a feeder over his left shoulder. Some say the right shoulder. Is there a right or wrong way, or is it just works for you? To be absolutely honest with you, Richard, it's whatever works for you. However, the one thing that transformed the accuracy of my casting was to go over my left shoulder. That one thing absolutely transformed my fishing, and that's what's happened today with James. That's the first thing that got him to do, because by doing that, it eliminated 1 or 2 other things that were happening, and it just allowed him to square up better to the target, and it just transformed it. It transformed my casting, going over the left shoulder. But some people might be much more comfortable going over the right, and that's fine, you know. But you know, one of the issues with going over your right shoulder, which is an issue that I've seen recently, is that when you go over your right shoulder, what you've got to remember is that depending on how close to your rod your feeder is, that can have an impact on your accuracy. All right. Now, the reason why that is because if, for example, you're in your casting position, okay, I'm squared up at the target, right? So I'm squared up at the target, which is you. I'm casting at you, okay. So you might want to duck or put your hard hat on. When you're in the casting position, you bring the rod back, don't you? Okay. Now, if I'm bringing the rod back, so that's the rod, and the feeder is that close to the rod, yeah. If it's that close to the rod when it comes behind me, and your rod is actually pointing at the target, well, your feeder, as long as you're nice and smooth, your feeder can't go anywhere else, can it? It can't go anywhere else because it's all in a straight line. However, what a lot of people do is when they go over the right shoulder, they're having the feeder that far away or even that far away. And what they do is they actually go around like this, go around like that, square up to the target, and then do that. Okay? But obviously what's happening then, and depending on the timing, what can happen is, if you can imagine, you've gone like that, which means your feeder's going round like that. Yeah, it's going round behind you. And when you get to that position to go forward, if you do it at that timing that I'm doing now, well, what's going to happen is, as I move the rod round like that, as I stop there to go straight forward, the feeder behind you doesn't suddenly stop, does it? There, because it's come right round here, it doesn't stop, it actually goes like that, and then does that, doesn't it? So that's why when you bring the feeder rod round like that, in that position, or that motion like that, the feeder swings round, and as you go forward, the feeder is still swinging round that way. So that's why when you go forward, it ends up going that way. Are you with me? So you've got to stop that feeder moving like that behind you. Okay, so by bringing the feeder back to you closer to the rod, you're eliminating all that swinging, because all it can do is that, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense, Richard, but that is in one of the courses. You know, that is in one of the online courses, the beginner's course, if anyone's interested. But yeah, I only really learned anything about my casting initially by filming myself and watching it back, because a lot of people, you get immersed, you don't see some of the things that you do. All right, and I've just put a link there to the courses, because casting is on one of them, the beginner's course, I think it is, about casting straight. So I've just put a link to that for anybody that wants to fast track that side of their fishing. Bernie Davis, good evening, Bernie. How are you, mate? Thank you so much for the day's tuition, Jamie. The points you made about critical balance have made such a difference. We will book you again, and this time bring Dad. Thanks, Bernie, mate. It was a really enjoyable day, mate. I really enjoyed that. The sun was shining as well, and you caught plenty of fish as well. And thank you for picking everything up so quickly as well. And I know you really focused on the things that mattered, you know, which means a lot. You know, some people aren't as serious about it. They book a day and they just want a day's fishing, and you didn't that day. I know you didn't. So yes, thank you for that, mate. Appreciate that. Viking, hi Jay, could you tell me, if I cast out a feeder and clip the line for casting, what happens once I get a bite? Do I have to unclog or unclip again? Cheers, great vids, mate. Watch them all. Love feeder fishing. Thank you, mate. Yeah, I mean, this is something that we cover more in the one-to-one days. It's a little bit easier to cover on that. But basically what you do is, when you're fishing to a clip, one of the things you want to try and do is, if you're fishing for big fish to a line clip, and you're obviously concerned about the fish having to run, which means that if you clipped up, you can't back wind. One of the best things I can say to you is that when you've got your line clip, I have covered this before, I haven't got a reel here. I thought I've got a reel handy to show you. Basically, when you put your line clip on, tighten your drag right up so that your spool doesn't move. All right, so that your line clip is right at the top of your spool. In other words, the drag doesn't move, so that the line clip will always be at the top of the spool. All right, that's the first thing that I do. All right, so that means that at any stage, you know exactly where that line clip is. So if you have got to take it off, you haven't got to go fumbling under your reel for it and all this like you do, and the fish is pulling. You know where it is, it's there. You can quickly and easily just take it off. All right, so that's the first thing. The other thing you want to try and do is try and hit your clip in a position where you're going to give yourself 2 or 3 turns of line actually on your reel. All right, so you can cast out, for example, cast out. You can go to catch it or feather it, all right? And what you do is, if you can hit your clip, say if you hit it here, for example, so you hit your clip there, the feeder hits the bottom, right? Well, you're obviously not going to keep your rod in that position, are you? So what you can do then is click your bail arm over, 1, 2, 3, 4 turns, and then put your rod down in the position where it's going to be for when you're fishing, or to your left, or whichever position you have it. So what you've done by doing that is that you'll set your tip, then you're waiting for a bite. So what will happen then is, as long as you've got a nice angle in your tip, all right, I know I'm getting a little bit detailed now, but this, you know, this is something that I've done now for 8 years, and touch wood, I haven't lost a fish because of it. So what happens then is you get a bite, all right, so you pick up. If you've got a nice angle, don't point your rod at, you know, I'm not one for pointing my rod at the feeder. I like to have a nice angle in the tip, because what happens is when you lift up into a fish, then the rod actually bends to the fish. So that is literally going to give you at least a second. All right, so you pick up into the fish, that's 1 second. And then the fish will go again. If it's still going, well, that's another second. And then you think, oh, I'm going to have to back wind. Take your back wind off, and you've got at least 3 turns. You might have 4 turns. So if the fish is running, you've got 1 turn, 2 turns, 3 turns, 4 turns if you've done it right, yeah, and then it's getting to your clip. Well, by that stage, you've had probably 4-5 seconds to know whether you're going to stop that fish or not. And if it looks like you're not going to stop it, because you know where your line clip is, nice and coolly, because you've had so much time to do this, you've had 5 seconds or whatever, you can just take your line clip off and let it run out. All right, and then obviously, if you've used measuring sticks or counted your turns or anything, then you can just clip back up again at that range. All right, so don't be afraid of fishing, especially for carp, to a line clip, because it will get, more often than not, you know, being accurate will catch you more fish. Okay, so I hope that helps out with that. I hope I've explained that all right. But just by doing that, it's going to give you a few seconds so that you're not rushing, you're not panicking. Even if it's a carp that's running, you've got probably 4 seconds, depending on how good you get at it. You know, you might have 4 seconds there. And if you have got to take the clip off, because you've tightened up your drag, the line clip is at the top of the spool, so you can just quickly and easily get it. I hope that helps with that, mate. IJ, Richard, I do a right-sided cast. No, that's good. Chatting amongst yourselves, I like that. What else? We've got the links there to all the coaching days if anyone's interested. Mark Lee, Jamie emailed you about this group day. Have you? All right, Mark, I'll catch up. I'm behind on my emails again. I do apologise. I've had that many. I will have a look at that. Sorry if I've missed it, mate. Andrew, it's just jumped again the chat. Let me just have a quick check-in with everybody. Dave Banks, hi Dave. Red pellets. What do you think about colour and hardness of hook bait pellets? I use a breakdown pellet, very light colour on the hook. I think as the pellet breaks down, the fish look at it as safe. That's a great way of thinking about it. Great way of thinking about it. I mean, one of the reasons why I don't really like breakdown pellets, Dave, is, and this, you know, a lot of this is possibly reflected in the types of venues that I fish, is that the problem with some breakdown pellets, particularly breakdown feed pellets, you know, if you're feeding them, is that if they don't get eaten in a short space of time, they're going to turn to mush, to ground bait. And quite often, ground bait and sloppy ground bait like that, or sloppy pellets, will draw in small fish. You know, on some of the venues I go on, the tiny little skimmers like that, they could be roach, and I don't want to encourage those fish into my swim. More often than not, whenever I'm method feeder fishing, I'm after proper fish. There could be carp, F1s or bream. I want a whole pellet there. I don't want to be sat there with an 8mm wafter on and come back with one of them. Are you with me? But that depends on the type of venue that you're fishing, Dave. Some venues don't get plagued with small silverfish, so that might not be an issue. Okay, so that's the reason why I prefer that, you know, a pellet that stays whole, if that makes sense. John Blows just joined us. Hi, John. I'm going to have a quick swig of my coffee because my throat's going dry. Do you ever fish any of the North Yorkshire venues? Like, oh, we've gone through that one, surely, yeah. I haven't done for a while. Danny F, what's the optimum length for bomb fishing? Anything from about 14 to 18 inch, anything like that. You know, there are times I actually won matches with a 4-inch hook length on the bomb. I'm not even going to try and explain why that worked so well on the occasions when it has worked, but it has worked. You know, just by, excuse me, just by shortening your hook length from 14 inch, 16, 18, whatever it might be, shortening it up to just like a method feeder hook length that's 4-inch long. I've actually caught better on that. So it's very much trial and error, but I always start on the longer one because I think that will help you catch fish on the drop as well because of the longer drop. So yeah, I always start on that 14 to 18 inch, that sort of length. Dimitar, in Bulgaria, Karasio is the most catch species. I didn't know that. It's something like a downgraded F1. Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it, a downgraded F1. Alan Measures, hi Alan. Jamie, why do some fisheries ban elasticated feeders, even the Guru X Safe, which are actually inline, but you can fish the pole? Cheers. It's basically to do with tethered fish. I mean, that's the hot, you know, the main reason, or that's their main reason for doing it, for banning fixed feeders or elasticated feeders. If nobody knows what I mean by tethered business, basically what it means is that if you load your method feeder up and you cast in like that and you crack off, your feeder goes and lands out there and a fish finds that, sucks your bait in, hooks itself, well, it's going to be towing an elasticated feed around for the rest of its days. You know, that's why they don't, you know, that's the bottom line. That's where the ruling came from. As regards the X-Safe, I mean, I've used that system for a while. but there are one or two systems like that I can't really remember. It's a few years since I've used that system. But there are one or two systems like that have got a tiny little bit of friction in there, a tiny bit of friction, and they might think that they're still classed as a fixed feeder. I don't know. I mean, I can't even get involved in fishery rules. Some of the rules that I see and hear about are just ridiculous, and I just don't understand where they come from. But that was the original reason why they banned elasticated feeders. Frank Ozier, John Wheeler, hi mate. Kev Mills, Jamie, are you going to do any more underwater filming? They were very good. I am, Kevin, and that's part of the reason why I've cancelled 25 coaching days for the rest of the year to free up days so I can get on the bank and do some filming. I probably showed you in one of the streams before. I've actually just sold one of the underwater cameras because I've got a new system that I'm using. But there are various things here that I've got that's going out there. This is all part of the kit. I'll not go into all that and show you all that, but yes, all the equipment's here. I've been invested in it, and I will be using it. So that is one of my major projects for this year that I want to get launched, because I want to expel some myths. I want to show people what is actually happening under the water. We've all got opinions, but I prefer facts. And with that sort of equipment that I've got there, I'm going to be able to put some facts to some of those questions or answers. So in answer to your question, Kevin, yes, that's a major project of mine for this year. And, now I'm freeing up more days. Over the next 3 weeks, it's probably really busy now, or up to the end of June anyway. And then it slows down again. So that's when I'm going to be getting stuck into that sort of thing. Stephen Armstrong, river feeder fishing, please, Jamie. Yes, we are doing a course on river feeder fishing and river float fishing as well. We're obviously getting Dean Barlow involved in that, because he's really, really experienced. He's won some fantastic matches on rivers. So, yes, Stephen, thank you for that, mate. Nathan Proctor, feeder fishing on rivers, i.e. the process of turning missed bites into fish. Yeah, that's a great one, Nathan, especially like roach and dace. Yeah, they can be little buggers to hit, can't they? I've heard them described much worse. Keith, yeah, Keith Harrison, hey, mate, hope you're all right. UK Outdoors, the new 1mm Sono pellets help massively. Yes, I mean, even now, I haven't had a chance to use the 1mm pellets yet, but I know they will be coming into our game somewhere. No problem. Evening, David Bailey's here. Hi, mate. Keith Harrison, Jamie is there. Oh, the chat's just skipped again. Where are we? Sorry, Keith. I'm just reading yours out there. Jamie, is there going to be a joint Q&A session with Dean in the near future? Would like to hear both your views on how you are going to approach the Catfishing Channel Cup. Yes, we will try and do one. The reason why we haven't done one, Keith, is not because we haven't wanted to, and it's not because we're lazy. It's because the connection at Dean's house is rubbish. I need to get him set up with some sort of a better live stream format. And, Dean's not that techie with stuff like that. So, yes, we'll definitely be doing more of that, Keith. He keeps asking to do more. But the last few ones we did, as you know, on the membership channel and the Match Fishing channel, they were just done on WhatsApp on the phone, and the sound wasn't very good, and the quality wasn't as good as I want it to be for you. So yes, in answer to your question, there will be. Keith Harrison, think your shirts should have a gold star per win. Hey, I like that. That's good, that, Keith. If anybody's not familiar with the Catfishing Channel Cup, I'll just quickly outline this for you. Basically, the Catfishing Channel Cup it's a competition that we run every year. And what we do is it's run along the guidelines of a group coaching format, but it's the only one that we know of where you actually get live match fishing coaching. All right, I'm going to put a link to it in here. I think there are a couple of places left, actually. I've just put a link to it there. Excuse me. And basically what it is anybody who wants to get involved in it, they enroll on the day, and we split. There are 14 anglers, and we split them into 2 teams of 7. Drawn at random, so they're random 2 teams of 7, okay? And one of the team is Team Harrison, and the other one is Team Barlow. And what basically happens is, in the week leading up to that 2-day competition, because it's 2 days, in the week leading up to that, each team captain, myself and Dean, will be liaising and conversing with our team members about the tactics for the weekend. We'll be formulating a plan so they get to see how we prepare for a match like that, how we arrive at a match decision. Okay, so you've got all week to converse with your team captain about the tactics for day one. Okay, and what basically happens is when day one arrives, we alternate the anglers. So it'll be a Team Harrison angler, Team Barlow angler, Team Harrison angler, Team Barlow angler. And you're basically fishing against the angler next to you. And what actually happens is that you are competing against the other team member at the side of you. But all throughout the match, myself and Dean are on the bank watching what's happening. We know roughly where each angler is, just like we do at the World Championships. And that is when you get your live matchmaking decision experience, you know, because we will, with you, be helping you tweak your plan. Do you need to change anything? Are you behind the angler next to you? Are you winning? Are you doing well? Are you beating him? So you've got to continue doing what you're doing. So that's where the live matchmaking, decision making comes into that. So it's very much, it's like one-to-one coaching when you're actually on your box, but you'll be getting that from myself and Dean, but in a real live match situation, and that is over 2 days. Okay, so over 2 days, and the team with the lowest points after the 2 days are the champions, and they get the medals and the trophy. And I've got to say it, Keith. I've got to say it. Team Harrison are winning 3-0. All right, so that's taking place again, and I think there are 2 places left. I've just put a link to it. If anybody, it is open to anybody. You don't have to be a member of the channel. Anybody wants to get involved in that, and it's at Barston Lakes, which is a fantastic venue for it, over for 2 days. Okay, so yeah, I like that idea though, Keith. We'll have to get that on here. 3334 Outdoors. Thanks very much again for the super chat. It's just popped up on here. Any tips for casting 9 to 10 ounce method pack bait balls without them breaking apart? Pretty common problem here in the States. Right, that is definitely not a method that we fish, but I do know all about pack bait fishing, and I'll be absolutely honest with you, I think it's something that could work here if fishery rules allow. The key issue with that is the mix. Now, I'm not quite sure exactly what mix you're using. Are you using quite a lot of, is it maize, corn, and is it breadcrumbs that you use with it? If you could just let me know. I think that's what it is. Basically, what we would do in England, if we had that situation, we would use a binding agent to help bind the ball more, because that's obviously what the issue is, isn't it? That's what the issue is. The issue is that it's breaking off. Is it on impact as well, breaking apart? It must be as it hits the surface. Use a binding agent. One of the things that I like to use is molasses. I don't know if you've used this. I think some of you use like a corn or corn extract or something to help bind it. Well, molasses we use molasses for that reason. I used it in Ireland last year. What molasses will do is basically it'll add sweetness to your mix. It will darken the mix. Now, I don't know if that's something you want to achieve. That you might not want to darken your mix down, because I've never done that style of fishing, but I don't know what it is. And the other thing it will do is it will help bind it. It will make it stickier. And we actually use it for binding. So if we go to places like Ireland where we're going to put in balls of ground bait, or it's a ground bait mix that isn't particularly sticky, we will add the molasses to it to help bind it, so that you can obviously either catapult it out there or throw it out there, and for it to stay intact for when it gets down to the bottom in deep water. So for me, molasses would definitely be the thing. The only thing that you might not be suited for you is if you don't want it to darken your mix down. Because when I've seen people fishing with pack bait, it's usually quite a really light colour, isn't it? So that might work. The other thing, I mean, one thing that they would do in England, and I don't know if it's an avenue that you can go down, and I don't even know if you can get hold of it, because I know in the States you haven't got access to carp fishing tackle like we have. You know, it's not exactly the most popular form of fishing, is it? One of the other things that I know some people would do is use PVA, a PVA bag, or make your pack bait and then put it into a PVA bag and then tie it off. Just snip it off so that the actual PVA holds everything in place until it hits the bottom, and then it will break down. As the PVA breaks down, obviously the water can easily get to the pack bait then, and then that'll start breaking down. PVA might be the best way. That is probably better than molasses, to be fair, but I don't know if you can get hold of PVA, and I don't know what size pack bait balls you're using. I guess you're using them that sort of hand size, but you should be able to get PVA bags that you can put that in that will just melt away. You might have tried that, but I think the PVA will be better if you could get hold of it. But yeah, be interesting one, that one. Sorry, Jamie, I thought you had missed my question about... Oh, no problem. Dark Lord, hi, Jamie, just arrived. I was asking you on Facebook a few weeks ago about hook tying, and you mentioned you might do a video to explain the pros and cons of buying them ready tied or doing your own. Yeah, I mean, I've got to be careful because I don't want to say anything bad about pre-tied hooks. You know, I mean, I'm obviously with Matrix and we make pre-tied hooks, you know, but there are downsides to it, you know, and there are downsides like, you know, they are a mass-produced product. So you might find the odd one that's not quite as reliable as some of the others. Any mass-made product is like that. You know, there are always going to be elements of faulty products. But so that is one issue, you know, that might be, you know, me personally, some of the matches I fish, you know, I fished a match last year where one bream won £10,000. You know, Neil Mallinson won the Feeder King final at Southfield. He had one bream and that won him £10,000. Now, if I'm fishing a match like that, which I was actually in that match, and I hook a bream and that bream comes off, or the hook length breaks, or it comes unraveled, if that happens with a pre-tied hook length, I'll not be able to sleep for a week because I will be kicking myself saying I should have tied my own. So that's one of the reasons why I don't use them, you know, because I fish in some of the matches like that. And the other reason as well is that I can't very often find a combination of hook length strength to the pattern of hook that I want. You know, obviously they can't make every single permutation of hook to line. They can't do that. But sometimes I prefer a certain hook pattern to go with a certain line strength. And you can't buy that combination. So that's another reason why I make my own. You know, so it's for a couple of reasons. John Wheeler, hi John, hope you're all right, mate. Not seen you for a bit. Hi Jamie, if you had to choose one bait in summer and one in winter, what would they be? Wow, I love those questions. That would make a good video, wouldn't it? It depends where what you're fishing for, John, and where. Winter, it'd be easy. I'd say maggot, just because a dead red, because it'll catch anything. That's if you're trying to catch anything. In summer, it depends on the venue, whether it's a commercial. If it's a commercial, it'd have to be pellet. That we've kept things really simple today at Cudmore, and we didn't need anything else on our bait tray except pellets. Unbelievable, you know. They're second nature, you know. They are a natural bait to commercial fish, aren't they? Because that's what they see more of than anything. So yeah, what would yours be? That's what I want to know. Richard Webb, Jamie, feeder fishing for big bream or method feeder fishing for carp? What's your favourite? Can't say both. I do like both. My favourite, that's a really tough one. I'm gonna go with cage feeder fishing for bream, but I will explain why that is. I love them both, and I absolutely love method feeder fishing because there's so many little elements that if you get them right, it's a self-hooking way of fishing. There's no way better. You just put the rod down, and if everything's working right, you get a hook up, and it's so exciting, you know. And usually when you're method feeder fishing as well, you've got some decent gear on, haven't you, as well? So it can be fun playing fish. So if you're hooking big fish, you've got a great chance of landing them. But the reason why I prefer bream fishing is because in bream fishing with a conventional feeder, if you're using chopped worms, casters, maggots, pinkies, whatever, I just feel like you've got a little bit more control. No, I feel as though you can make something happen more. The method feeder can quite often be a case of just put the feeders where you think the fish are and sit and wait, you know. Whereas with when you're bream fishing with a cage feeder and that sort of thing, you feel as though you're going to make a bite happen. You know, you might put some bait in at the start and then go and sit over it. You're changing hook baits, 2 pieces of worm, maggots, you know, shorter hook length, longer hook length. If that's not working, you can put 3 more feederfuls in, then going over the top. When you start catching, you can put a bigger feeder on, start piling bait in to catch more. Are you with me? So maybe it's because I feel as though I'm a little bit of a control freak, but I feel as though there are more things you can do to trigger bites when you're bream fishing, I think. And I think that's why that just edges out method feeder fishing. So yeah. Rory T, can you use a feeder that is heavier than the tips test curve, for example, a 45-gram feeder with a 1 ounce tip? You can, but I wouldn't recommend it. The reason for that is because a 45-gram feeder is going to load your rod. All right, so when you go behind you like that to cast in, it's going to bend the rod quite a lot because it's a heavy feeder. Now, what's going to happen is as you go forward like that, your tip doesn't go like that and then follow the feeder out, does it? Your tip goes forward like that and it goes down, up, down like that under the force of your cast. It does that, doesn't it? Now, if you've only got a 1 ounce tip on, when you go forward with that 45 gram feeder, the tip is going to be doing that. And when that's happening at high speed, that can lead to crack-offs. That can be the biggest cause of crack-offs. You know, there's too much movement there because your line's going through the runners at a high speed. You've got your tip doing that, which is slowing it down, and that's when you can get a wrap over and it's going to crack everything off. So that's why generally, if you've got a 45 gram feeder on, just match it up to at least a 2.5 ounce tip. Okay. And if you've got that feeder on because you're going at casting at range, I mean, a 45 gram feeder, you can cast a long way. Then when you go a long way, you want a stiffer tip on anyway, because that's going to help make your rod a bit stiffer. It's going to stop all that movement, because when you go forward like that, it's not going to do that as much. So that means less friction of the line or the braid going through the eyes on your rod, and that's going to lead to less crack-offs. And because the tip is stiffer, it's going to help you punch that feeder further as well, if that makes sense. And if you've got 45 gram on, because it's a river, not because you're casting a long way, but because you need 45 gram on to hold bottom, well, a 1 ounce tip is too soft on a river that's flowing that much anyway. So you want at least a 2.5 ounce tip on anyway. So I hope that makes sense, John. Sorry, that wasn't John, was it? That was Rory. Sorry, Rory. Right then, Chicken Hawk, will you do any more ground bait buyer guides? I wanted to. The reason why I stopped doing them is because I moved to sauna baits. All right. Now, for me to do videos showing off sauna baits, ground baits, it doesn't carry quite as much weight, because there's lots of cynical people out there that say you're only doing that because you're sponsored by them. Now, you know, and that's fair enough. I totally get that, you know, that belief with the way that the world is right now. So that's why I stopped doing them, because, you know, there isn't really any much credibility in me not promoting, but showing off sauna bait, ground baits. Because a lot of people out there will think I'm only doing it because I'm sponsored by them. Okay. And obviously, because I'm with sauna baits, it's not in my best interests, and there'd be a big conflict of interest if I started showing off ground bait mixes from other brands. Are you with me? So that's why I stopped doing them. But I will do 1 or 2 on the ground bait mixes that I'm using, because that's factual. You know, I can show you the mixes that I have been using and why. You know, certainly not in a sales way. I'm not here to sell tackle. I'm not here to sell bait. But I'm quite happy to show you what I have been using and what I've been catching fish with. But I think with the ground bait thing, it's not so much, you know, the name on the bag, what people are interested in. It's more about, and you're probably the same. It's more about why you made those decisions, why you selected that mix. You know, did you pick it because of its colour, its feed content? Does it bind well? Is it strong fish meal? Is it not fish meal? Are you with me? So I always try to engineer it more about why we make those decisions like we have done. So I hope that makes sense. So for those of you who are obviously sat and watched this, thank you very much for. I've overrun by 22 minutes, but there we go. That's because I want to acknowledge as many of you as possible, because it means a lot when you log on live. It really does. Please, if you're watching this on playback, I'm going to log off in a minute. If you do want to post any ideas about the courses underneath, what topics would you like to see? And what I also want to ask you as well is, let me know what kind of videos you want to watch. I know lots of you enjoy the live match videos, and that's fine. I'm going to continue doing those as and when I can. But also let me know what other topics you'd like to see, what other venues you'd like to see. You know, more videos seem to be getting done on commercial venues, but that's because people want to see videos from commercial venues, you know. And I get that. Certainly here in England, you know, they are the most popular venues that people want to fish. But obviously, I love to produce venues that are a little bit lesser known, natural venues, pretty looking venues, and ones that are very unpredictable. I just need to check in, because this is flagged up as a message that I've missed on here, which is 334 Outdoors. I use either oats stroke cream corn and molasses, all right, either dried or liquid or both, and it breaks on the cast. I think here in the States, if it breaks on impact, is better. Got you. I understand. Thank you for that. I missed that reply. I do use some PVA, but the water and weather is too hot most of the year. You can't keep the sweat off them. 35 degrees is a good day here. I see your problem now. I understand now. Yeah, I understand with the temperatures. That wasn't something that I'd even thought about would impact it. 324. I do, James. In winter, when the cats aren't as active, I use commercial method mix cut with bread, and it packs hard and casts well. Right. Okay. I mean, the other thing as well is brown crumb. I don't know if you use any sort of crumb. I mean, brown crumb binds really well as well. I don't know if you've gone down that route, but I never thought about the temperature impact. You know, that was something. It's not something we're used to having a problem with over here, as you know. But yeah, I mean, brown crumb. I mean, again, that binds pretty well. Some of the crumbs, but I'm not sure what you can get access to. That's the problem. But what I will do is that I will I'll make 1 or 2 inquiries about that, because I do know 1 or 2 carp anglers that fish abroad in hot climates, and perhaps they can suggest something. I know at least one of them is connected with the England carp team, so I will ask that question for you. Okay, I'll find out for you. Michael, hi Jamie, love your passion and fishing videos. Thank you. Do you fish full time now? I don't fish full time. People think I fish full time. No, I did leave my job a year ago now. Yeah, it was the end of May last year. So I have been self-employed for almost a year now, but I don't fish full time. I make my living from producing videos. So, I do get to go fishing more often. I don't go every day like people think. And I don't fish thousands of matches and spend all week preparing for a match at the weekend. No, I'm not classed as a full-time angler. I don't want to be. I make my living from my videos. I love making my videos, and that is my income, and that's what I want to do even more of. I don't want to make my living through just fishing matches. I don't want to do that. I want to make my living through sharing my experiences with you right here on YouTube and on my membership channels. So yeah, it's just almost a year since I quit work, which has gone very quickly. So yeah, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to sign off now. If anyone's got suggestions for the courses and videos, please post them underneath this video so that I can read them on playback. Oh, I really will appreciate that, because at the end of the day, I only want to produce content and videos that you want to see. So if I can produce videos that are demand driven, then that really helps me, and it means that you're getting to see the content that you want to see. So I'm going to go now before I lose my voice. It's been a very long day. I left the house at 6 o'clock this morning. It took me 2 hours to get there today, and it's taken me 2.5 hours to get home. So I've spent 4.5 hours in the van today just driving, and then we've sat and fished in the rain. So I'm just going to go and rest my voice. I'm doing some producing tomorrow, so I've got some new videos coming out that I'm looking forward to sharing with you. So thank you so much to everybody for logging on tonight. You really have. It has a huge impact when you do actually log on live. And if you're watching on playback, thank you for watching. And there will be obviously a lot more content coming through June now that I've got more time to get out there filming. I've got loads of matches as well. So thanks again, everybody, for logging on. Thanks for the great questions, and I look forward to reading your comments. So take it easy, everybody. Hope the rest of the week is good for you, and I'll check in with you in a day or two with the next upload. Okay, so take care, everybody. Thanks again. I'll see you in a day or two. Okay.